Okay, guys, welcome to the first episode of Kalani's Corner. I have been trying to start. Okay, take that back. I have been putting off creating this podcast for years. I had made one with an old friend of mine back in 2020, 2021, when was still a thing and we just were silly gooses and just wanted to yap. So we created a podcast. It didn't last very long. It was probably like maybe like 5, 6 episodes. Um, but we were just talking about like random stuff and it fizzled out. And I knew ever since then I wanted to have a podcast, but that was like an old version of me. And the person I am today does not reflect like what I was talking about and how I was speaking back then. So I feel like it's very fitting now that I'm in this current season of my life and a more evolved, more mature version of myself. I can finally restart this podcast. I feel like God has been telling me to create this podcast, and there's actually a funny story I want to tell you. So, I created that first podcast back in 2020, 2021. That was like 5, 6 years ago, okay? And then 2 years ago, a friend of a friend who I don't really talk to, I'm not really close with, he came up to me at one of our mutual friends' birthday parties at a restaurant, and I will never forget that day. He is very in tune with God and he's a pastor. He just has like a really good relationship with God, right? So, um during that birthday party, he pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, Charity, I feel like God's asking me to ask you about a podcast. God's been saying you should be starting a podcast," or something along those lines. I can't remember word for word what he said, but I will never forget him bringing that up. And I thought this was crazy because I had not spoken to him about things that I'm working on. I had not spoken to him about my brand, about ideas that I had. So I couldn't really figure out how he would know about that. And that's how I came to the conclusion that like, okay, God is like speaking through this person that would know nothing about my podcast life and telling me that I need to start a podcast. So that was back in 2024. Fast forward to 2026, we're finally here. I watched I always watch podcasts on YouTube and I love it. I'm like, oh, maybe when I finally get a good camera, a good setup, a nice aesthetic place, I can finally start my podcast. And I feel that that goal is a lot farther than I had anticipated. And honestly, it was just like an excuse that I kept giving myself as to why I'm not showing up making content online, why I didn't start my podcast. And I also had gone through a season of silence because from 2020 to about 2024, I was a serial yapper on social media. Serial yapper slash oversharer. And I felt like that's how I was coping with what I was going through because I went through a lot. Um, but my life also went really well. I'll get into that on another episode. But I was in this season of silence for the past year or so, just fixing my relationship with God, getting closer to Him in my word, evolving, maturing in all the ways. Um, and I really miss talking, but I just feel like I had to be silent for a little bit because I was also going through a lot, and God was showing me things about my life, about my circle, about my family, about my purpose, and it all sounds so deep because it is. Um, but now I don't know, I just have this sudden inspiration or drive to start podcasting and just start putting it out there, even though I don't have the most aesthetic setup or I'm not the most articulate speaker, but I do love to yap. I do love to yap. And to find that middle ground of being vulnerable, being real, but also not oversharing certain things, I think I can get there. And that's how I'm getting there with y'all. So, yeah, basically I wanted this podcast to just be a real conversation. Hopefully in the future I can invite guests, family, friends to have conversations with me because I feel like I have amazing, deep conversations with the people that I surround myself with. And I love that. As like a neurospicy girl, I love deep talks. Like I cannot take small talk. I just can't. I was in customer service for over 10 years of my life and yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. But I really wanted this to be a safe space, obviously, for real conversations about womanhood, girlhood, healing, relationships, therapy, growing, evolving, business, entrepreneurship, all the things. And that's what I want this podcast and this channel to be, basically. Um, yeah, like I said, I have so much to learn. I have so much to get into, but stay tuned for the next episode. Bye, guys.